Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're really glad you're here with us today because we are about to tune our ears to a frequency that I guarantee is ringing in the background of your life, even if you aren't consciously listening for it.
It's the sound of belonging.
It is. Or, in some unfortunate cases, the sound of forced belonging.
Yeah, that too.
Exactly. We are talking about the anthem. And I have to admit, when I first saw the stack of research you brought in, I had a very specific, very narrow image in my head.
Let me guess. The Olympics.
The Olympics, yeah. Gold medals, standing up in a stadium, hand over heart, maybe, tearing up a little bit while a flag goes up a pole.
Which is the classic hallmark version of an anthem. It's what we're trained to think of.
But the reality you've laid out here is so much messier.
Yeah.
And, frankly, so much more interesting. We're going to go from the stone cathedrals of England in the 1500s, where this whole concept was born.
Born out of an intense religious politics, yeah.
Yeah, right. And then we're going all the way to the boardrooms of modern corporations, where executives are trying to force their employees to sing about profit margins.
We have to talk about the inflatable guitar.
I saw that in the notes, and I have been dreading and anticipating it in equal measure.
It is a painful story, but a necessary one. It really shows what happens when the idea of an anthem gets weaponized by HR.
So we have a lot of ground to cover, but before we get to the cringy stuff, let's start with the basics. The word itself, anthem. It sounds heavy. It sounds old.
It is old.
Yeah.
And to really get what an anthem does, you have to look at where the word comes from. It's not originally English. It goes back to the Greek. Antiphona.
Antiphona. Okay, let's break that down.
So you have anti, which means against or opposite, and then phon, which is sound or voice. So literally it translates to sounding against.
Sounding against. That feels adversarial, like a debate or an argument.
In a modern context, sure, but think about it in terms of, the architecture of an ancient space. A church or a cathedral. Antiphona refers to responsive singing. You split the choir in two, one on each side of the room. One side sings a line, and the other side responds from across the way.
So it's like a musical tennis match, call and response.
Exactly. It's a communal act. That word travels through history. It becomes antiphen in Old English, and then smooths out into anthem. But that core DNA is still there. An anthem isn't something you just listen to. It requires a response.
So this had nothing to do with countries at the start. No, God Save the King.
No, not at all. Entirely religious. If we go back to, say, 1550s England, the anthem was a very specific type of sacred choral work.
And this is tied directly to the Reformation, right? The split from the Catholic Church.
Precisely. King Henry VIII breaks with Rome. The Church of England is established. And like any new organization, it needs a brand. It needs to differentiate itself from the competition.
And competition was the Catholic Church.
Now, the Catholics had their big musical showpiece, the motet.
The motet. What defines a motet?
Well, a motet was high art. It was complex, polyphonic, multiple melody lines weaving around each other. And crucially, it was almost always sung in Latin.
Which means the average person sitting in the pews probably had no idea what was being sung.
Exactly. It was music for God, not necessarily for the people. The reformers wanted accessibility. They wanted the congregation to understand, so they needed a musical counterpart, but in English.
So the anthem was basically the Protestant motet.
That's a perfect way to put it. It was a theological statement in music. We speak your language. And it became so important that the Book of Common Prayer actually codified it. It says the anthem should follow the third collect at morning and evening prayer.
That is incredibly specific. After the third collect, drop the track.
It institutionalized it. And because the church and the crown in England are so linked, the anthem also became the soundtrack of royalty. A British coronation service is basically a festival of anthems.
Okay, I want to nerd out on the music theory for a second.
Yeah.
You mentioned that these early anthems were through composed. How is that different from, say, a pop song?
Right. So a pop song or a hymn is usually strophic. You have a verse, then a chorus. You reuse the music for the next verse, then the chorus again. It's a loop.
Like Amazing Grace. Same tune, different words.
Exactly. An anthem, in this classical sense, is rarely like that. It's through composed. The music changes constantly to reflect the specific text at that moment. There is no loop.
It's linear storytelling through sound.
It's totally narrative. If the text says, "and the mountains shook," the composer writes shaking music. If the next line is, "and peace fell," the music immediately drops to a whisper. The music is custom built for every single syllable.
That sounds incredibly difficult. Not something the congregation could just sing along to.
No, not at all. These were for trained professional choirs. They were performance pieces. This is a huge shift from how we think of anthems today, where the whole point is that everyone sings along. You see it in the American tradition, too. There's this great eccentric composer from the 1700s, William Billings.
The tanner from Boston.
That's the one. He wrote this incredible piece called the Easter Anthem, and it has these sections called fuguing tunes.
Where the voices kind of chase each other.
Yes, they enter at different times, they overlap. The whole time, signature shifts constantly to match the speech patterns. You literally couldn't swap in different lyrics because the music is welded to those specific words.
So we have this complex high church art form. How do we get from that to God Save the Queen, which is, about as simple as a melody can get?
It's evolution and democratization. Over the next couple centuries, the word anthem just starts to drift. It stops being about that specific slot in a church service and starts meaning any celebratory song for a group.
You went from a technical term to a vibe.
It did. And the biggest driver was the rise of the nation state. Countries were trying to figure out who they were, they needed symbols, they needed flags, and they needed songs, the national anthem.
The sound of sovereignty.
And what's fascinating is that they didn't all choose the same style. You can actually see patterns based on geography.
Okay, give us the tour. Where should we start?
Let's start with Latin America. If you listen to the anthems of, say, Uruguay or Argentina, what do you hear?
They're long. They're long.
Yeah.
And very dramatic.
They sound like Italian operas, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Why is that?
Because in the 19th century, when these countries were gaining independence, Italian opera was the absolute peak of global pop culture. So when they needed an anthem, they hired composers trained in that style.
Okay, so that's one style. What's another?
Contrast that with the Middle East or parts of Africa.
Yeah.
There you often hear a fanfare style. It's shorter, very brass-heavy, trumpets, military rhythms.
It sounds more like a salute than a song.
Exactly. It's a musical language of authority. And then Europe is mostly hymns and marches, functional music.
Now, speaking of functional, there was a category in your notes I'd never heard of, flag anthems.
Ah, yes. The niche world of the flag anthem.
I just assumed the national anthem was the flag anthem.
In most places it is, but some countries have a completely separate piece of music dedicated solely to the physical flag itself.
Just for the cloth.
Just for the cloth. The best example today is Taiwan.
And there's a political reason for that, isn't there?
A huge one. Because of pressure from mainland China, Taiwan often isn't allowed to play its official national anthem at international events like the Olympics.
So what do they play when an athlete wins gold?
They play the national flag anthem. To the rest of the world, it just sounds like a nice song. But to the Taiwanese, it's a very specific coded substitution. It's a sonic loophole that allows them to be present.
Wow. The music is doing diplomatic heavy lifting.
It really is. And that brings us to another strange phenomenon. The shared melodies.
You mean plagiarism?
Let's call it strategic borrowing.
Okay. I think most people assume their national anthem is totally unique. But you're saying a lot of countries are just using the same backing track.
It kind of breaks the illusion, doesn't it? And the biggest example is God Save the King.
The British anthem.
Right. But if you're an American, you know it as My Country, 'Tis of Thee.
Which I definitely sang in elementary school. I had no idea it was the British tune until I was a teenager.
But did you know that Liechtenstein uses the exact same melody?
No. Really?
Yep. Their anthem is called Oben am Jungen Rhein. Same tune. Note for note. Switzerland used it for a long time. The German Empire used it. Even Hawaii used it.
So why was that tune so popular? Was it just that catchy?
It was partly British cultural dominance, sure. But in the 18th and 19th centuries, that melody became a kind of musical shorthand for monarchy and stability. Adopting it was like buying the statehood starter pack.
But it's not just the British tune, right? You mentioned a Nordic connection.
Yeah, Finland and Estonia, two countries that are culturally related, and they share the exact same anthem melody, written by the same composer, Frederick Pacius.
Is that ever awkward?
No, it's generally seen as a bond, a sign of kinship. But sometimes sharing a melody is an explicit political statement. Take the song, Hey Slavs.
Hey Slavs.
It started as a song for all Slavic peoples, and it became the anthem of Yugoslavia. But the melody is basically a slower version of the Polish national anthem.
So they were signaling, we are part of this pan-Slavic family.
Exactly. It's an auditory flag, but the most powerful example of this has to be Nkosi Sikel I Africa.
Bless Africa.
An incredible story. It was composed in 1897 by a South African school teacher, Enoch Santonga. It wasn't a state anthem. It was a Methodist hymn.
So how did it become a national anthem?
It became the song of the anti-apartheid movement. It was sung at rallies, protests, funerals. It was the sound of resistance, but it spread. As other African nations gained independence, they adopted it too.
Which other countries?
Zambia, Tanzania, Namibia, Zimbabwe. At one point, 5 different countries were using a version of this song.
Wow.
Because it didn't represent a border on a map. It represented a movement, liberation, Pan-Africanism.
And South Africa's current anthem is,
Yeah.
it's a mix, right?
It's a masterclass in reconciliation. When apartheid ended, they had a choice. Keep the old anthem of the white regime or replace it with the liberation anthem.
A tough choice.
Right.
One winner, one loser.
So they chose both. They stitched them together. The current South African anthem starts with Nkosi Sikelel' I Africa in Xhosa, Zulu, and Sesotho. Then it changes key and goes into the old anthem, Die Stem, in Afrikaans and English.
It forces everyone to sing in everyone else's language.
It does. It's a powerful, powerful act. But that also leads us to the messy side of anthems, where they create division. And for that, we have to look at the Soviet Union.
Right. We think of that one big, booming Soviet anthem.
We do. But the USSR was made up of 15 different republics, and Moscow decided each one needed its own regional anthem.
Like state songs in the U.S.?
Sort of, but they hired world-class composers like Khachaturian and gave them a very strict formula.
What was the formula?
Stanza 1, praise the local geography. Oh, the beautiful mountains of Georgia. Stanza 2, praise Lenin and the Communist Party. Stanza 3, praise the brotherhood of the Soviet people, which really just meant praising Russia.
So it was localized propaganda.
Exactly. And because of that, those songs are toxic today. In places like Latvia and Lithuania, playing those old Soviet anthems is illegal. It falls under decommunization laws.
It's a symbol of occupation.
But here's the twist. The current Russian anthem uses the old Soviet melody.
Wait, really?
Yes. After the USSR fell, they tried a new song for a decade, but it wasn't popular. So in 2000, Putin brought back the old, powerful Soviet tune, but with new lyrics about God and the fatherland.
That's incredible, using the sound of the empire, but scrubbing the ideology.
It's auditory nostalgia, a very deliberate signal.
That is heavy. Let's bring it closer to home. The U.S. state songs, you call them a chaotic mess.
That might be an understatement. I mean, let's start with Maryland. Until 2021, their state song was Maryland, My Maryland.
Oh, what's wrong with it?
It was a Confederate battle hymn. It called Abraham Lincoln a tyrant and a despot. It was written to urge Maryland to secede and join the South.
And they were still using that in 2020.
It was officially on the books. They finally repealed it, but it shows how sticky these things can be.
On the lighter side, you have the pop culture takeover.
This is my favorite part. John Denver is basically the patron saint of state songs.
Right. Rocky Mountain High for Colorado.
And Take Me Home, Country Roads for West Virginia. Which, you know, it's funny because most of the landmarks in that song are actually in Virginia.
Details, details. It captures the vibe.
It does. And then you have Tennessee, which just couldn't decide.
How many do they have?
12.
12 official state songs.
12. Tennessee Waltz, Rocky Top, and even an official bicentennial rap from 1996.
I don't even know what to say to that.
It's exactly what you'd imagine a government-mandated rap song sounds like.
This is the perfect segue, because government-mandated rap brings us to the most painful part of our research, the corporate anthem.
The genre of music that should not exist.
Why does a company think it needs an anthem?
They see themselves as quasi-nations. They want loyalty, culture, shared identity. So they look at countries and say, they have anthems, we should have anthems.
It's cargo culting, mimicking the form without the feeling.
Totally. And the grandfather of this is IBM. You found a songbook from 1937.
Songs of the IBM, a physical book with over 100 songs about selling business machines.
And they did it by taking old folk songs and just writing new IBM-themed lyrics.
Give me an example.
Okay. There was an ode to the president, T.J. Watson, sung to the tune of Auld Lang Syne.
Oh, no.
The lyrics went, T.J. Watson, you're our leader, fine. You're IBM's bright guiding star.
Imagine a room full of salesmen in wool suits singing that to their boss.
And research shows it just creates dysfunctional cynicism. When you force adults to sing about how great the accounting software is, they don't love the software. They just resent you.
You have a modern example of this that leaked, right? KPMG.
Yes, the accounting firm. In the early 2000s, they had a song called Vision of Global Strategy. It was a techno track. The chorus was, KPMG, we're strong as can be, a dream of power and energy.
That sounds like a Power Rangers theme.
It leaked online and became a huge joke, but the undisputed champion of corporate cringe is Starbucks.
The inflatable guitar story.
The year is 2005, a leadership conference in Seattle. The senior executive team comes out on stage.
Okay.
They're dressed in rock and roll costumes, wigs, leather jackets, and they're holding inflatable guitars.
No.
And they perform a parody of "We built this city."
But we've built this Starbucks.
You built this Starbucks on coffee beans. The room was silent. Apparently, the emissary started yelling at the crowd, "Why aren't you dancing?" The employees just stood there.
That is a waking nightmare. It proves you can't force buy-in. An anthem only works if the feeling is already there.
Exactly. And that's why the last real bastion of genuine, unforced anthems is sports.
Right. It's the only place in modern life where 60,000 people will spontaneously sing together.
And the gold standard is Queen. We are the champions. Freddie Mercury literally designed that song for audience participation.
It's scientifically engineered to be an anthem.
It is. The simple rhythm, the soaring chorus, the tribal lyrics, it fits any victory in any sport.
And then you have the UEFA Champions League anthem, which feels so grand.
And that brings us full circle. That anthem is an adaptation of Handel's Zadok the Priest.
Wait, really?
Yes, Zadok the Priest is a coronation anthem written for King George II in 1727. The music used to crown kings is now used to crown football teams.
The gods of the stadium have replaced the kings. That's perfect.
It is.
I want to close with one specific sports story because it solved a real political problem. Ireland's Call.
This is a perfect example of a functional anthem. The Irish rugby team represents the entire island of Ireland, the Republic and Northern Ireland.
Which is a political minefield.
Massive. If you play the Irish national anthem, you alienate the Unionists. If you play God Save the King, you alienate the Republicans.
So what do they do?
In 1995, they commissioned a new song, Ireland's Call. It's carefully neutral. It doesn't mention governments or wars. It just talks about the 4 proud provinces of Ireland and standing shoulder to shoulder.
So it's an anthem for a group that only really exists on the rugby pitch.
Exactly. It creates a temporary nation, and when you see them sing it, it works. It bypasses the politics and hits the identity.
And that really is the theme of this whole deep dive, isn't it? Identity.
It is. Whether it's a 16th century choir, a revolutionary, or a rugby team. An anthem is just a way of answering the question, who are we?
And the answer is always, we are the people singing this song.
Precisely.
So here is the challenge for you listening right now. We want you to listen to the soundtrack of your own life this week. Look at the groups you belong to, your company, your favorite team, even your family.
Do you have an anthem? Is there a song that when it plays, you feel that pull, that sense of, this is us?
And if you are a manager listening to this, and you are thinking about writing a song to boost morale, put down the pen. Step away from the inflatable guitar.
Let's buy them pizza instead. It works better.
Wise words. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.